The campaign has focused a lot of attention on unemployment, but what we don't talk about so much is the poverty that it has caused. One part of that is that 16 million children now live in poverty. And early last year, in a 60 Minutes story that literally took our breath away, Scott Pelley told us about how some of those children are living.
If you were rushing to work this morning in Seminole County, Florida, it's not likely you'd notice the truck or hear the children getting ready for school.
In the clear bin, we have dirty laundry. In that one, there's tools that we might need.
All these bank bags are storage of this and that.
Like shampoo.
And over here is food.
So you're really not heating up food so
No.
much. You're eating out of cans?
Yep.
Well, after that story aired, the story of 5 children, a family of 5, living in a truck. The kids in that story were given free housing. Their parents were offered jobs. 2 kids have been offered full scholarships from 3 colleges. But that is only one happy ending in a much larger story. And the problems are even worse now, according to our guests this morning, Cornel West of Princeton and Tavis Smiley, the PBS television talk show host. They have written a book called The Rich and the Rest of Us about poverty in America. Let me just start. How bad is it, Tavis?
It's horrible. When 1 out of 2 Americans, Bob, are living either in or near poverty, that means 150 million Americans. Half of us are wrestling with this issue. What we argue in this text, The Rich and the Rest of Us, is that poverty now, Bob, threatens our very democracy. Poverty now is a matter of national security. There seems to be a bipartisan consensus in this town, and you know how hard that is to do, but a bipartisan consensus that the poor just don't matter, that poverty is just not an important issue. We cannot abide another campaign for the White House where the issue of poverty isn't raised higher on the American agenda.
Cornel, you were a big supporter of Barack Obama in the last election. You really got off of him, though, and it's over this. Why so?
Well, my critique has to do with a system that has warped priorities. The question is what kind of nation we really are, what kind of people we really are. 1% of our population own 42% of the wealth. We would both say here quite explicitly that Barack Obama is better than Mitt Romney when it comes to poor people. But when you look at the system as a whole, there's an intimate connection between the deadening zones of poverty and the deadly drones that kill terrorists but also innocent people. Why? We put a higher priority on military, less priority on our precious and priceless poor people of all colors, especially our children.
You point out in this book that the face of poverty is changing. It's not just overwhelmingly black folks.
Absolutely. We've got a significant number of white brothers and sisters, and we began, Brother Tavis came up with the idea of the poverty tool as well as this text, and I'm blessed to work with him. We began on Indian reservation. Indigenous people's precious too. But the public face now, white, more and more white middle class.
That's been a problem for a long time, Bob.
That's right.
When we think poverty, we think that it's color-coded. We think poverty, we think black, we think brown. But one doesn't need to be a rocket scientist to know that if half of the nation is wrestling with poverty, this is not a black problem or a brown problem. It's not that people have character flaws. This is a societal crisis right now.
You're saying half the people in America are living in poverty?
The census tells us that if you take the perennially poor or the persistent poor, the new poor, which we call the former middle class in this book, the new poor are the former middle class, and the near poor, those who are just a paycheck or two away from being in poverty, you're talking about 150 million people.
That's right. You're talking about poor and low income.
Exactly.
You all reported it December 15, 2011 with that Census Bureau with Byron Pitts. 1/2 low income or poor.
What do you do about it in this age of shrinking budgets? There's no question that the government faces this enormous deficit problem. Cornel, where would you start?
Well, we've got a political system that's broken, you know, both parties tied to big money. And so the problem is we make our choices relative to those 2 parties, or we opt for third-party possibilities. But most importantly, we need a massive job program. We need investment in education, quality jobs, and housing. Do away with discourse about austerity, focus on massive investment, research and development, infrastructure, and job creation.
30 seconds.
Progressive tax code, number 1. Number 2, women and children first. There's a reason 15 years after the Clinton administration, women and children are falling fastest into poverty. We got to do something about this imbalance between public and private. Housing, schools, and prisons now under private control, basically. We're a better nation. We can do better, starting with a White House conference on the eradication of poverty in this country.
I have to end it there. I thank both of you
Thank
for
you, Bob.
being here.